And we're live.
Uh, and we're live. So I'm your host, Stephen Van, over here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. We don't care. COVID, no COVID. We get it done. We're here for the round table as we normally are every Tuesday. And we're here live, which is a new thing. And we're going to keep doing it. Let's work our way around the table and go to Tom McAllister here representing the New York, the East Coast, holding down in COVID Central. Tom, jump right in. I understand that even though New York might be hit hard, people are wondering about baseball. Is it
Yes.
going to happen, right?
Well, basically, so far the baseball season officially hasn't started, and it looks like the players' union and the owners are kind of at an impasse where an agreement hasn't been made, and one of the key concepts that's come up financially is the talk of a salary cap because Major League Baseball actually does not have a salary cap, and that's something that's very rare because football, basketball, and I believe the NHL also do have salary caps. So they're kind of going back and forth. And Mark Teixeira, former baseball player and analyst for ESPN, said, "Oh, it'd be perfectly fine. Baseball players should, should come back and play at pennies on the dollars." I think it's a little ironic because Mark Teixeira signed a huge free agency contract where he made about over $100-something million guaranteed. So I wondered if Teixeira would be singing the same tune if he was losing game checks. So this is kind of something going forward. I think the big question here is how much should these players sacrifice? Because they signed these huge big time contracts, and now they're like, wait, those contracts. Sorry, we can't pay you. So how can we resolve this situation with Major League Baseball? Because they're going to take a revenue hit, and they also, unlike basketball and hockey, they haven't even started their season yet, so they're missing game checks. So, how do you think the players should respond to this situation? Van, I'm going to go with you first.
Well, you've got some teams, and it's actually more so, I think, than baseball would care to admit that you take away the people, the stadiums are so cold, it's not really any big difference. Yeah, it doesn't really affect the game at all. Now there are a few storied stadiums where the people are part of the game. They really are. It's integral. Boston is one. New York is one. It really is a part of the game to have the people. So to have the games without the people, I think is like really going to be strange. But when you're looking at all the amount of money that some of these top players are putting on the line, plus some of the bottom players who might not be making millions upon millions, but if they don't make money, they're broke. They want to go out there and take the risk. I know they do. Who I think are the people that are most at risk here and will have the least to say about it are the support people, the people that work for the least amount of money. From some vendor somewhere to a janitor to the lighting technician, these people are going to be forced to come in and work no matter what. And I don't know if they're going to get hazard pay, whatever, but something commensurate with the minimum or low wage they get in comparison to the players that are on display. Nate, something along those lines or something all different?
I'm going a little bit different of a direction here. First and foremost, baseball's at a disadvantage because they're the only of the four major sports leagues that are not able to play any day of the week. And what I mean by that is they're not compatible to play in the winter, whereas NHL hockey, football, basketball, they can play any time of the year. And so they're in a situation where they can't necessarily push back their season that far. But with that being said, if they play, and I really hope they do, play a partial season, then they're talking about maybe having 81 games instead of 162 games. One advantage football has over every other major sports league, every game counts and the urgency to win is there, whereas there might not be in sports like baseball or basketball where they play an extended regular season game. So what I'm curious to see is playoff baseball so much more riveting to me, not only because the teams are better, but the urgency to win is there. So when you play a reduced season, it's going to completely change the dynamic of the way managers manage the game. And to me, it probably might make more riveting baseball.
Spinksy, I'm kind of interested to hear what you think, because I know you're a firm believer if you sign a contract, you play out your contract. So what do you think is the correct action for that with the Major League Baseball players right now?
It's tough, isn't it, man? Like, I'm a big fan of that. As you guys know, you sign for 3 years, you do your 3 years. I don't see how you can tear up contracts and walk away from things like that. But this is a very different situation. As you're saying, they can't really do baseball throughout the entire calendar. So baseball kind of has to start soon. And baseball can be boring enough at the best of times, but if you're doing it without fans there, it's going to be a lot worse. So maybe they need to look at something like the UFC Island as such, where they kind of get all the teams together. They all play out of Arizona or somewhere where it's a lot warmer, and they just keep all the teams there and just have games down there, and they could virtually have 3 or 4 games every day and do that instead, kind of work it like a UFC Island type thing, and at least you'll have some baseball going on. Dan?
Well, I agree with you. It's baseball being the first major sport looking at trying to come back because of the timing, if nothing else. It's going to be a very fluid situation. It's not going to be a matter of, here's the plan, this is what we're going to do. It won't work that way, even if that's the intent. That's not the way it's going to happen. If there's a hot spot, if there's a flare up, if public sentiment sways one way or another, baseball will be responsive and change what they are doing. But in regards to that, I think you're right. You know, they have the ability to go to these towns where they practice and do spring training and stuff and limit the exposure of what they do and play a series of games. I think they could even go a step further and just have, let everybody else take it off and just have the Yankees and the Sox and the Dodgers and the Angels get together, have a couple series, then get together for the championship. What do you just cut to the chase? What do you think, Todd?
I think the interesting thing is, I believe California has extended their stay, or I think Los Angeles County has extended their stay-at-home order for a few months.
Right.
Boston has announced that there are no gatherings over 10 people until after Labor Day. So when you think about that, you have the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, California, whatever you want to call them, are impacted. Oakland A's, San Francisco Giants. Those are going to be several places that are impacted. And
Orange County of California. You left that out.
Yeah. Orange County of Burbank, California, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Bel-Air Academy Angels. That's their new name. They're co-branding it with NBC from the 1990s. They're trying to get that rub off from the Jordan documentary.
It's trademarked, by the way. Don't bother.
Darn it. That's what I was going to do after the Zoom call. But I really think this is something where, another question is, do you really think people will go out and watch a baseball game for a team that they're not invested in? Nate, what do you think about that?
Well, I think there's a dynamic where there's a certain, particularly in the United States, there's a certain dynamic where there are certain fan bases that are going to show up no matter what. There are people going to be showing up for the Yankees. They're going to show up for the Dodgers. They're going to show up for the major league teams, and they're going to show up for the Astros, particularly now. So really, I think they're going to have to get creative. I think the home and away games are really going to have to go by the wayside for this season. So they might have to do something like calling it batting island, or you play in Florida, you play at the spring training facilities. And I don't think you're going to see a shortage of fans, because I think people are so starved for sports that I do not think there's enough people. I don't think there's going to be enough to keep people away. Let's put it that way, particularly in the Bible Belt in this country.
Spinksy, how about you? How do you feel about it?
I'm still going back to the island idea. I reckon it's awesome. I think having like people are so hungry and starved for sport. Like you could virtually Australia's an island. Just get all your baseball teams come out here. We've got heaps of space over here. Do your thing, and you televise it. You're going to get a lot more interest through TV than you are with actually people actually turning up. Maybe put some music on in the background, some crowd noises or something, so it actually sounds like that you're there. But yeah, go for it. Set it up. I want to see some sport. Yeah.
How about you, Van? How do you feel about that?
I'm just going to pile on with what they're saying, man. Freaking A. It's just an awesome proposition. First of all, you're going to draw from the loyal fans. We're going to have the gear. And what's great is all they need is gear from the waist up as they call around to their friends and say, hey, guess what I'm doing? I'm going to go to the game virtually, And then they deal with that. And then it just feeds off that because right now people are starved for sports. Anybody will watch it, right, Tom?
I don't know if you've seen this, but the Korean Baseball League, what they did is they put like cardboard fans behind home plate. So
really?
I think that's interesting to say the least.
All right, Nate, remember what I told you? All right, last week when we were talking, blow up dolls.
That's what I said. You turn it into blow up dolls. I think turn the whole thing into a sitcom. Have a laugh track or a cheer track, whatever. I think this is the shot in the arm baseball needs. It's basically.
Oh yeah.
For the fan that really isn't invested, they know when to cheer now, and they know when to boo, and they know when to throw things. I think this is the 21st century baseball that we've been missing.
I think even the cardboard fans would still be booing and throwing stuff at the Houston Astros this year.
Ooh, ouch.
Houston.
Ouch. Hey guys, I got something. I want to steer the conversation around, and it's I've actually got a list. I want to go down and see what you guys vote on this. And Brady v. Belichick. These guys are competing directly right now, and they've only got a few years that they can compete directly, maybe even only one, depending on if Brady has one of those precipitous falls off the map or not. But which one's going to have a better 2020? I mean, off-season preparation, that's a category. Which one has the advantage there? QB familiarity with the offense. Which one has the advantage there? Belichick's QB or Brady and his new offense? Just overall proven talent. Well, okay, we can tell you which person has that one. Okay, that's Brady. He has the advantage. Offensive line, who has the advantage there? Wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, scheme, defensive balance. Which one has an advantage there, if any, between those two? I've got my checklist. I'm curious what you guys think about those subjects. Who has an advantage in any of those areas? Spinksy, I see you calculating, man. The eyes are just spinning around. They're spinning around. All right, what do you got?
Look, if we're looking at history, I think Belichick is better than Brady. And I know that's hard to say, but I think Belichick could have possibly done it with someone else, whereas I don't think Brady could have done it with someone else. And that will show over the next year or two. I think Brady has a better season this year. He's got some good offensive weapons around him. And I think the Patriots are tanking in 2020 so that they can get Trevor Lawrence next year. I think Bill Belichick is a very, very smart character. He knows what he's doing. He could take a quarterback like Johnny Manziel or Dak Prescott or Tony Romo or anyone and make them awesome. I think it's more about the system, whereas a guy like Brady knows his system really well. And yes, he knows what he's doing on the field, but he's going to go to a whole new team. It's a whole new scheme, all different things. So I'm just not sure how he's going to go, really. Nate, how do you feel, mate? Belichick or Brady?
Yeah, well, here's going to be the interesting part. This is going to be the first season where Tom Brady's going to have a lot of input on the weekly game plan that goes into the offense. So I think first and foremost, the Buccaneers offense is going to look completely different this year. They're not going to be chucking the ball down the field, which is kind of Bruce Arians' MO. Instead, Brady is going to have a lot more say in the weekly game plan. So it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic and the shift in the offense. But with that being said, I think it's all going to come down to wins. And with that being said, Tampa Bay was 29th last year in total defense last year, but they were in the top 10 in turnovers. I think their turnovers on offense are probably going to be cut in half due to Jameis Winston and Tom Brady. Tom Brady has always been elite when protecting the football. That's one thing. He does have great weapons around him, at least at the receivers, but they're abysmal on the offensive line. And unlike Jameis Winston, Tom Brady can't extend plays like Jameis could. But they're going to be in a lot more close game by virtue of not turning the ball over. But another point is people are getting hot and bothered and excited about Rob Gronkowski. Now, for his entire career, Rob Gronkowski's, even with the injuries, has averaged around 900 yards a year, about 10 touchdowns a year, and maybe about 60 to 70 catches a year. His last year in New England, he was 682 in yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 47 receptions. That's a steep decline. I don't think Gronkowski has the legs in him and the juice in him anymore. And not to mention, on top of that, Rob Gronkowski has not played in a full 16-game season since 2011. Best case scenario for Gronkowski, I think he plays maybe 13 games, maybe gets you 700 yards and maybe about 5 touchdowns. That's not elite production or even better than average production at all. Tom, what do you have to say?
Well, I think first, when it comes to Rob Gronkowski, I see him getting pinned at the 50-yard line and losing the WWE 24/7 championship, which I think they're totally waiting to do that. But I think when you talk about Tom Brady, this is the first time in his career he's not the best quarterback in his division. You know, he might not even be the second best because he's in a division now. He has Drew Brees. He has Matt Ryan. You know, the Panthers, they're switching over their quarterbacks, but Christian McCaffrey had one of the seasons for the ages. You know, and I think when you look at the Patriots, there's still no one in the AFC East that really, you know, I can see dethroning as right now. Like, even though the Patriots will come in with an unproven quarterback, there's no one really that truly scares me in the AFC East. And, you know, Belichick, I think their offense was pitiful last year, and they were still able to make it to the playoffs on muscle memory. So I definitely see an improvement going forward. And I think Belichick is the one who's going to come out ahead of Tom Brady this year. Nate, how do you feel?
Yeah, stack on top of what you were saying. Also, I could very well see Jarrett Stidham being the best quarterback in the AFC East. Do you really see Josh Allen overthrowing the Patriots? Because I think that's what the Bills are missing. They're missing a step forward in the quarterback play. And I could see Stidham being the best quarterback in that division. They won 12 games by just being the best defense in the league. They had 36 turnovers the year before. I think that's a much better place to be in if you're talking about having the better year. Dan, what do you say?
Well, yeah, I can see Josh Allen overthrowing almost anybody. He's done it. Next question.
Right. I think the way we all knew the Dolphins were taking forward Tua about 3 years ago before even they knew. And so I think the Patriots are in a similar situation right now. They don't care. They had multiple chances during the off season to pick up. And Jameis Winston, Cam Newton's out there still. They could have drafted someone. They could have drafted Jordan Love. They had heaps of options. Whether Stidham's the man or not, they've obviously got an idea going forward. So either Stidham's your man and you're looking after him, and going forward, he's going to be your guy, or they're tanking and they're going to take Trevor Lawrence next year. Bill Belichick's a very, very smart man. I think of the two of them, the Patriots are going to have a worse year this year, but going forward, the Patriots are going to be all over it. So I think the Dolphins are going to improve in that division. The Bills are there still. So I think the Patriots may struggle for a year or two, but they're going to be back to their best in no time. Nate?
Yeah, I just don't see, as Tom was saying, he's no longer the best quarterback in his division anymore. If you look at the production from Drew Brees over the years, he's playing at a higher level than Tom Brady right now. And you got to remember, he's going to be 43 years old at the beginning of the season with a bad offensive line. And for them to win double-digit games, I think they have to win the division. And there's no advantage I see them having over the New Orleans Saints, and maybe even the Atlanta Falcons. Van?
Well, how long has it been since a team that was not the best in their area of the nation, the next year is the team that everybody's going to be gunning for, right?
Well, New Orleans has been the best team in that division for the past 2 to 3 years.
Well, exactly. New Orleans is, and not Tampa Bay. But next year, when the Buccaneers are out there, every team is going to be jacked up because they want to take Brady and put him down. They do not want to be the team that has people going, oh, wow, look at Brady. They do not want that on that record. Tom?
I think you also have to keep in fact, Tampa Bay has a much better climate than New England. He'll also get 2 games indoors at New Orleans and Atlanta. So I definitely think, Brady's offensive numbers will improve. He has so much talent at the skill positions around him with Mike Evans. OJ Howard, kind of hasn't developed. Goodwin is probably going to have a monster year. So those are kind of things I anticipate. But Brady's success will not lead to victories in that division because everyone can put up points. Nate, how do you feel about that?
Well, not only on top of that, you look at their schedule in 2020, they play the AFC West as well as their own division. So what does the AFC West do really well? They're armed to the teeth with talent at the skill positions. And when you take a look at an abysmal secondary, do you really think that they're going to be able to overcome the Patrick Mahomes and with Oakland stacked at the skill position now, or Vegas, excuse me? Are they going to be able to take on the Denver Broncos and be better than them? I could easily see them going 1-3 in that stretch. Van?
Well, something that you brought up earlier, Nate, and then you touched on it again recently, Tom. The skill position players there for the Buccaneers are very talented, but their talent skill lies primarily in getting downfield and getting downfield deep. That's what they've been asked to do. That's what they were drafted for. That's what the Bruce Arians offense does. And curiously enough, one of the things that definitely has been on a decline with Tom Brady over the past few seasons has been the velocity and the liveliness of his deep ball. Is there anyone here that would disagree with that?
I do, just because I want to fuck with you.
All right. Yeah, we got one. Okay. All right. So how much is that going to affect what goes on between him, Bruce Arians, and the talent that he has around him? Because he's going to want to, bring them into a much different type of offensive flow, right, Nate?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because there was an article about how him and Josh McDaniels were not seeing eye to eye over the past few seasons, and he felt kind of burnt out by Josh McDaniels. Now we're going to be seeing how much of the game does Brady have up here, because he's going to have a direct impact on the game plan. So this is something that Aaron Rodgers has wanted for years. This is something Tom Brady has wanted for years. So put your money where your mouth is. No excuses now.
Yeah, I think a guy like Arians is very what's the word, like forward thinking. I think he's willing to try new things. I think he's willing to put himself out there more. I think with Brady there, they're going to sort of work some magic together. I really like it. Whereas I think Belichick's very old school and very, this is how we're going to do it. But this is it. Whereas I think Brady's going to have a bit more of a say where he is too. So it's going to be a good relationship going forward, I think. So I think the Bucs are in a good position now. Should be
Well,
nice.
let's close it. Let's close it up and move it around. Okay. Just give a final vote and, a quick note if you want, but let's move it around. Tom, Brady, Belichick, who's going to have a better 2020? And I guess ultimately, Nate, we're talking about wins. You are right.
For wins, I'm going with Belichick. Belichick has, I think, an easier schedule, and he has that system. He gets the best out of their players. Brady, I think, will have a good year, but won't get as many wins. He has a tougher schedule.
All right. I mean, all right, Spinksy, is that going to be the case, or is this going to be the year where the Patriots start getting rolled? They start losing some in the AFC East.
The Patriots are going to tank. They'll be lucky to win 3 games this year. They're tanking for Trevor. I believe the Bucks will have a good season. They'll probably just go like 8-8 or maybe 9-6 or 9-7 or something. But they won't be making the playoffs. It's going to be a good few years before they get back there. But I think it's a good experiment. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Nate, what do you think? You be the decider.
Spinksy, did you just not hear the points I laid out in front of you here? And the fact, the gall that you had to go and disagree with me. I roll out the red carpet for you with all these facts, and then here you are and you spit directly in my face. Belichick.
All right. Well, then it's official. Well, the one thing that we know here is the same thing that everybody really knows elsewhere, is that we don't know what the freak Belichick is going to do, but whatever it is, it's going to be interesting. And Brady's going to keep it lively. Keep it lively. We got another subject that we want to bring up here. And Nate, I'm going to let you run with this. It's something that you've been pretty excited about for a while. UFC 248, I understand, right?
Van, here you go. I give you the opportunity to lay the red carpet out for me. And you get
hold on. I'm sorry. I'm good. What? 249? UFC 249. Nate.
Thank you. God bless America. I mean, I almost forgot what I said. If I wasn't such a professional, I wouldn't be able to run with this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the main event here. Because that really showed out to me, the Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson. And I become bigger fans of fighters when they lose, believe it or not, because that's the thing we love about sports. We don't find out who you are without adversity or a loss. That's when we find out who you really are. And if you could see the shots Tony Ferguson was taking from Justin Gaethje, I mean, most people's jaws end up on the moon. I mean, that's how hard he was getting hit, and he kept coming, like a zombie. And there was an excuse that he made after the fight saying that he was preparing for Khabib, because that fight was initially supposed to take place April 18th, but got canceled because he was unable to leave Russia at the time. But Tony Ferguson still cut weight for that. He cut weight about 30 pounds. He walks around about 190 pounds. Fights at 155. He cut the weight unnecessarily so, because he's one of those guys who rides that fine line between genius and insane. So I think that possibly could have an impact on the way the fight went through. And the fact that I said to take a look several weeks back, look at the fighter's conditioning and look at game plans. I think his game plan was impacted by the events of COVID. Van, what do you have to say?
Well, I just have one comment. What you said just broke through and spoke volumes to me. When, strangely enough, you like it better when your guy loses. And I was thinking, well, yeah, that's spoken like a true Cowboys fan of the last 20 years. Tom is like, yeah, okay, I get it.
I loved it. I loved the whole thing. I sat there and watched the undercard fights first. I think I missed the very, very first fight, but that was it. I watched every other fight. I sat there with my son. I drank almost a bottle of scotch. I ate some fantastic food, and I sat there and it was an awesome day. It was like 8 hours of watching sport. It was great. And I saw some excellent fights. I saw some ordinary fights. There was a lot of dancing around going on. I saw it at one stage. I can't remember who the fighter was, but he was presented with the belt, and he's turned around to cheer with the fans, and there was no one there. That was good too. Nate, what do you think, mate?
I just wanted to add on because you posted a picture on Twitter about your little spread, and then the stuff is like, Spinksy knows how to do sports right.
Oh yeah,
That was an amazing spread. If you could go back and look at it, and I know you watched the fight, Tom. What was your takeaways?
I think, the Justin Gagey, Tony Ferguson fight, that I think those are the fights people love most, when it's almost like the straightforward boxing match with the 5-ounce gloves and there's hitting haymaker after haymaker. And, I thought in the second round, Gagey was winning the first and second round, but Ferguson got his opportunity. He hit a solid uppercut on Gagey. I'm like, oh, there he goes. It's going to switch, but nope, it didn't work. Gagey just pounded him. And it was released that Tony Ferguson has a broken orbital bone, which I think surprised no one if you saw that fight. But another fighter that stood out is Ngannou. He just came in with a 20-second knockout, because I think what gets people over is having a dominant athlete that just goes out. That's why Ronda Rousey got over. She dominated. Ngannou just went in 20 seconds. Basically, the introduction was longer than the fight with the powerful left hand. It looked like it didn't even hit him solid, and he could still knock some people out. So I think, you had an event where 2 stars were made. Justin Gagey, you can maybe even say Tony Ferguson, and Ngannou. Nate, what do you got to know?
Well, the funny thing about Ngannou was I even tweeted right before the start. I said this fight will last no longer than 43 seconds. And then what does he do? It knocks him out in 20. And the funny thing about Ngannou is you see these terrorizing knockouts that he finishes with, but after he got the opportunity to fight Stipe Miocic for the belt, he fought very, very conservatively. He was very afraid of letting that gas tank go. And it lasted into probably one of the most boring fights in heavyweight history. And so a lot of people had questions whether he was done as a fighter, because he was so conservative about spending his energy. And then he comes out and absolutely dominates his next 4 fights. Man.
I think it's so exciting right now, what's going on around this event. Like we thought, the first anybody to get anything up, be it baseball in Korea or UFC, people are going to go nuts over it. They're going to go bonzo over it. I mean, here at Sports Talk Line, people are writing articles. They're dissecting what happened. They're talking about the energy. Everybody's excited. Everybody's talking about it. There's a lot going on. We have it on the show here. It's real sports. Everybody's starving for it. And I think it's fantastic. Spinksy, what's it like down there?
Yeah, we've got sport kicking off again in about 2 weeks, I think. So it's going to be very exciting. But the UFC over here was huge. I spoke to a lot of people this week, and one of the things I liked the most, one of the early undercard fights, it was before Greg Hardy, the ex-Cowboy. I think his name was the Boa Constrictor. It was a heavyweight fight, and it was just two.
The guy that I would like to talk about, well, actually not me, it's not my subject, but about the Mike Tyson experiment, another guy that, just is known for totally destroying his opponents. And this is a subject you wanted to bring up, right, Spinksy?
Yeah, looks like 53-year-old Mike Tyson is coming out of retirement for a fight. I think we briefly touched on it last week. A video was released yesterday, I think, on Twitter, and it is bloody scary. You wouldn't want to meet this guy in a dark alley. It is rather terrifying, the video. He's fast. Obviously, the video's been cut up, so it makes him look better, obviously, but he looks fast. He looks like he's strong still sees it well. So it'd be very interesting to see how he goes. Obviously, he can't fight 12 rounds anymore. That's just not going to happen. But I'd hate to see him come up against anyone for a short 2-minute round or something, because he's going to be deadly. Nate, have you seen the video?
Yeah, I've seen the videos, and what is kind of surprising to me about all of them are people are actually surprised and taken aback by it. I mean, all sorts of these fighters, they don't lose necessarily all their muscle memory and their explosiveness over the years. And you got to keep in mind that this is strictly pad work. I'm sure if you took Evander Holyfield or any other old fighter and you saw them with pad work, they would look amazing. I really just don't see Mike Tyson for coming back for anything more than an exhibition. And an exhibition is much different than an actual competitive fight. I think the fire really isn't there with Mike Tyson. I mean, shit, look at his podcast. He's having a ball smoking the ganj left and right. I mean, the name of his podcast is Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson. It's fantastic. Van, what do you have to say?
Well, I just want to pile on and agree with what you were saying there. If you took an athlete, a fighter of their caliber, and at 70 years old, 65, 70, and you put them up against like a 25, 35-year-old guy, they're going to pop them for a round or two. Their problem is they can't last anymore. They lose their wind, they lose their legs, they can't take damage like they used to before. But, you know, for a quick exchange of blows or something like that, or with somebody with no training, oh, they would embarrass somebody like that. I mean, just totally embarrass them, if not just outright hurt them. Yeah, Tom.
I think too, the one thing is the reason why this fight would happen, people would want to see it. Mike Tyson is a media draw. So if he is fighting anyone, it could be, they could bring back, what was this? McNeely. I believe he was the first boxer he fought when he got out of prison. They could bring him back. They could bring anyone back and for Tyson to fight, and people will tune in. We're not saying he's going to be a great fighter, but it's also, if you're a promoter, you got to see those dollar signs, going forward, and maybe put him on with something else. But people say nothing bad happens in an exhibition match. Talk to Apollo Creed.
All right. Well, specifically like that exhibition match, whatever. The latest I understand is Johnny Manziel almost bit the big one in a cliff diving incident or something like that. He's trying to get involved in. It ended up going badly for him, and they had to fish him out. With all these sports that are available now in the world, what are sports do you think that could make almost an immediate comeback because of the uniqueness of how they're played? I can think of one. Let's bring back Forrest Gump and table tennis. All right, put Bruce Lee on one end with table tennis. Okay, just take on anybody, and they don't even have to touch each other. Yeah. What do you got, Tom?
Golf. I think golf would come back just like that. As it's the one individual going against the golf course. You're not used to crowd reactions anyway. You're supposed to be quiet the whole time. So I definitely think that would be one sport that could come back, no issue.
I wish it wouldn't. I really, really, really wish it wouldn't. I mean, for the love of me, I don't know why they televise the goddamn event. I don't know why it's on SportsCenter. I mean, explain that to me.
Okay, what about?
I'd watch golf over baseball any day of the week.
What about bowling? Bowling's
the same thing, yeah.
Because you don't have to really be, you can be a lane apart. You can split it up like that. I mean, that's how it's done. Yes,
over here in Australia, we were sensible and we stayed inside and we did everything that we were told to do. We wore masks, we stocked up on toilet paper, and now guess what? As a reward for that, our sport is coming back. So you people pull your head out of your fucking ass and stay home and you'll get your sport back. That's what you're going to do. Think about it.
Casey, I've been using the Wall Street Journal as toilet paper for the past 3 weeks.
You say that like it's a bad thing, man. All right, guys. Well, look, thanks a lot for being here. This was a fun show. As always, the Roundtable, we cover sports from all angles. And we didn't really do, a lot of Cowboys stuff today. And Joshua was not here, so it was only almost totally wasted. Yeah, CD Lamb.
Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott.
All right, Tom, you can respond with Jason Good. Jason Good.
I do have a response. I don't know if you saw the quote today from Tom Brady. The one thing he said, they asked a question, be like, "Oh, are you upset that like you can't compete against, are you glad you can't compete against Peyton Manning?" He's like, "No, I'm glad I'm not competing against Eli Manning anymore." So put that in your pipe and smoke it. I know Ben will.
Oh, slam. Just drop the mic. You can close the show now. This is Tom McAllister. You find him at defense_com. And on Twitter, as you can tell, he brings the A game. Well done, Tom. Well done, Tom. Spinksy there from Down Under. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at Spinksy NFL. Always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, you're allowed to talk, Tom. All right. And Nate, No Remorse Dowdy. You can find the man on Twitter at No Remorse Sports. Nate, wind us down, take us home. Do the, before I give it to you, man, please, the social media. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell so you're notified. Without you, this doesn't happen. Thank you so much. Nate, bring it home, sir.
By the way, there's been an excess of about 5.5 million people trying to follow me on Twitter for the past few weeks. And I just have to clarify this. There are no spaces in No Remorse Sports. No spaces, so the 5 millions and millions and millions of Nate's fans can come actually follow me. There are no spaces involved. And I'm going to close off with one of my specialties right here. I'm going to do a Stephen Vanover impression. So after you go ahead and subscribe, you can listen like you play with intensity.